Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the weekly Sikh Network show, where each week the Sikh Network team bring you updates and discussions on issues that we are actively working on, involved on, and of importance to Sikhs across the UK and also Europe. Today's show, I'm joined, before I introduce my guest, we are going to cover why is the importance of professional networks and expanding Sikhs' reach outside of our traditional institutes and engaging with a wider audience. And we're also going to touch on the importance of Sikh ethos schools, which was one of the commitments in the Sikh manifesto that was launched by the Sikh Network in 2015. So as we get into it, let me introduce to you my guest. I'm delighted to have a Sikh Network board member joining me today, and that's Mankamal Singh. Mankamal Singh,
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
And we'll get into a lot of the issues in today, but obviously you've come from a background of both professional environment, working in the city, and also been actively leading on a Sikh school. So hopefully your experiences and your input will be relevant to today's show. But before we get into the detail, just to give you that overview of the Sikh Network and who we are, essentially we're an open collaborative, a network of professionals, students, activists from across the UK, which really have come together to move the Sikh cause forward, predominantly in the UK with policy and decision makers, but also with government, addressing the need of lack of Sikh representation at all levels, but also raising the quiet voice of the Sikhs, some say invisible voice of the Sikhs in this country. So we've taken a number of initiatives over the last year and a half, 2 years. Some of those are well known, like the Sikh Manifesto, which is geared around the 2015 election, but also the UK Sikh Survey, which was the largest and most comprehensive survey done in the UK, which attracted over 4,500 Sikhs up and down the UK from all age demographics and provided much needed qualitative and quantitative data for us to have these meaningful conversations with decision makers. We've also done more Panthak issues and Dharmic issues, such as the annual Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurb event in Parliament, which is now in its second year, and we're now planning for its third year, which is an annual event held in Parliament and attended by many across the UK. And more recently, many on social media would have followed our initiative to mark Guru Gobind Singh Ji's 350th birth anniversary in Gurpurb, the initiative around 350 Sikh women, where we focused and profiled the immense contribution of Sikh women throughout history and the sacrifices that they've made, and also in more modern times, and the inspirational achievements that they've made across a number of categories. So with these initiatives that the Sikh Network lead, we've also tried to concentrate on targeted events and specific events that have allowed us to take the concept of the network out there into the professional field and attract more members. And with that, we've, as a group and as a board, we've collectively targeted professional networks out there, professional organisations, in that was our real target, to bring the issues of the Sikh community in the UK to a wider audience and also understand and listen to them, who often feel that their voice isn't really picked up on. So, Mankamal, we've engaged with a number of professional outfits in central London, PwC, EY, we've worked with City Hall, we've done events with the UK Parliament. I mean, what's the importance and benefit of working and focusing on professional networks?
I think if we turn the clock back to 2013/2014, when you first started tabling the idea of the Sikh Network, and what attracted me to the Sikh Network, I've been involved in Sikh circles for about a decade now, various different jathebandis and different campaigns, and Gurdwara, trustee of a Gurdwara as well. And personally, what I found was a lack of certain skill sets, a lack of certain talent, which through no fault of the system had sort of disappeared from our arena and environment, or our agenda, if you want to call it. We weren't thinking about how we attract certain skill sets and that certain talent pool that exists out there to better the community. And it certainly wasn't coming into the institutes, wasn't coming into Gurdwaras, it wasn't coming into certain campaigns, Gursikh-focused, Panthik-focused campaigns. So when we first started speaking about the idea and you came up with the idea of the Sikh Network, I mean, it attracted me straight away because it was certainly something that I had been thinking about for a long time. We have very strong Sikhs out there in the community in all different fields. With that come everything that they've been through in order to sort of meet their professional requirements, the training that they have, the skill set that they have within their roles, the benefit that they provide their own organizations. Now, how do we get that into Sikh projects? How do we get that into Panthic projects? How do we move forward with that? Yeah. And this whole idea that you came up with at that time encompassed that and brought that all together. That's what I found. Some of these Sikh networks within the larger organizations had already started developing. So you're talking about 2010, 2011, we already started seeing Sikh networks. Even before that, in fact, I mean, this isn't something new. Sikh networks have been around within the professional organizations for quite a while. But it was more focused on networking. It was more focused as a social event. And again, it's a shame because it's a waste of that resource pool that exists out there.
No, I think that's an important distinction to make because obviously there are Sikh networks within organisations and there is the Sikh network. I think the distinction really, as we discussed this through, was the Sikh networks within organisations are there to serve themselves, i.e. to connect people from that particular ethnic group so they can meet other colleagues in that organisation, because some organisations are fairly large, you might have tens of thousands of employees. So it's an opportunity for Sikhs to connect with each other and any local issues that they might be having within the business or within the company, but like you said, network on a social level, not necessarily to pick up community issues or representative issues. And I think as the Sikh network, what we wanted to do was connect them together so they're not isolated as just working for themselves in that one organisation, but also then reflect those views of those networks and magnify them at a national level and a more representative level.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I mean, when you meet the people within with the professional fields, and certainly, you know, I've worked with some of these people, there is an appetite to be involved in Sikh projects. It exists out there. It's just making that connection. There's stigmas attached to the institutes. People perhaps don't want to get involved with the gurdwaras, but when you present something which is perhaps not so rigid and a bit more fluid, then all of a sudden what you find is that you do attract those kind of people. And certainly with the growth of the Sikh network, that's what's worked. It's the fact that it is a network. It's the fact that it's a platform for people to get together, put their ideas together and really utilize their skill set to take things forward. And we've seen that, you know, over the period of time.
Absolutely, and that was one of the founding concepts, if you like, when we thought about network. Because again, having similar background to yourself, when you work in a professional field, you have your day job, and unless you came up through the existing organisations or you were part of a Gurdwara setup, it's very difficult for Sikhs out there to get engaged. And there's many out there, there'll be many out there watching this show today who feel a passion for some of the issues. Those issues they may connect with at a national level, such as the recent European Court of Justice ruling on religious symbols, and which may or may not impact at the start. But there might be personal issues that individuals have felt with in their own day-to-day lives. And we had the case of Pav, who was discriminated against when he took his omelette at his workplace in Vodafone. So whatever that trigger is, it's how do you make it easier for professionals and individuals out there to connect with an operating organisation or a bunch of like-minded Sikhs to actually then move these issues forward. And I think that was always been a founding concept, and I hope that what we've tried to do in how we approach and where we reach out to Sikhs, it allows that to happen. I mean, well, I guess thinking and been involved in some of the events and attending some of the events, and what is your sort of view on the events that we've done in some of these professional organisations, and how do you think they've reached out to individuals?
You know, I mean, these are audiences that perhaps, you know, would not visit the Gurdwara, you know, on a regular basis, or they may not visit the Gurdwara when you hold that kind of event in a Gurdwara. So using the platforms of professional organisations and those networks reaches out to a complete different audience that, you know, wouldn't otherwise have come involved or wouldn't have otherwise felt that they would have been the right kind of candidate or the right kind of calibre of individual to be involved. So we've seen that, you know, I mean, EY Sikh Network, I think it's a great example. I mean, you know, the founder, Lovepreet, is a good friend of mine, and you know, the way that network has developed, and it started off from actually promoting core Sikh values. I mean, basics of Sikhi. Jagraj Singh very early on, in the early days, ran a whole course at EY Sikh Network. And I think a lot of Sikhs in the city connected with that. And today, the benefit of that several years down the line is a lot of these guys are involved more in projects, Sikhi projects.
No,
So,
and I've seen the EY Sikh Network in practice while I was still working in the city was something that, again, gives you that self-awakening. Here, look, it's now becoming, I won't say popular, but it's resonating with a lot of people from a lot of backgrounds, in that actually they are feeling that importance and that connection with Sikhi, that they are now setting these up. And it's our responsibility, those that are connected to the national issues, that actually we take that responsibility. We don't just focus and emphasize on ourselves, which has been a tendency of historic organizations, just to think about and look at as far as you can see, as opposed to a bigger vision. And we wanted to look at across the landscape and see how do we connect all of those that are active in the space and actually improve and bring everybody forward.
It's a form of succession planning as well, because if you've not got that kind of environment and that kind of direct link into how you're sort of investing into the future through these networks, then we have got a big problem with the next generation taking the lead. So the network has helped in that massively, I think, now. And what I've found with these newer events that certainly we've been involved in, we've connected out there with a lot more people, diverse number of people from different backgrounds, great skill set, a huge amount of talent. And what's becoming more and more evident is that there are more women who want to be more involved in Sikh-related projects, and something, again, an area which was lacking in the past. And that's something that's a barrier that we're breaking.
It's a very good point, and I guess it comes to two questions really. One is around again, the importance of women taking an active role in Sikh organisations. Sikh representation is critical, and we've both learned that firsthand within the network, because we have a real positive gender balance in the network. Tell me about some of the other members in the network in terms of their professional background, just so people get a view of the skills that are within the network, because obviously if you're from a certain background, you will appeal and attract others from that background. So what's the diversity of the Sikh network?
I think a good person to look at would be Preet Kaur Shegil. She's a councillor, she's a cabinet member within Sandville Council, an extremely articulate person, very well versed, and her understanding of the political agenda and current affairs is excellent. We had Manjeet Kang, who's not been involved more recently, but from the banking background, an excellent role model for women. At one point in time we had Maria Garcia. I mean, if you remember her, was it Garcia?
Activist, yes,
Human rights activist. She wasn't even a Sikh, but her attraction to Sikh values was just amazing, and I think that was a real example of you don't have to be a Sikh to appreciate and understand and project Sikh values.
Absolutely, and again, it comes down to although the Sikh network, it is targeting Sikhs and non-Sikhs, and again, from an academic perspective, I know we've got involvement from an academic perspective.
We've got Dr. Upinderjit Kaur, again from University of Wolverhampton, a very strong candidate there who's been involved in projects from the issues and fighting for the anti-caste legislation. She was a key in that, with the Sikh survey, and just in general her projection of Sikh issues.
And I guess that's the point is that people from those backgrounds, from politics, from academia, from banking and commerce, and also other civil adars that we have, Sukhi Kaur, I know, is one who's very active in the ground. Is that they then can attract others like them, in that they open doors in business world, in other political environments. And if I just sort of look at the list of some of the events that the network have done, and we'll touch on some of these in a detail, but at PwC, you held the Sikhs in Politics event. EY, we've held women in politics, Sikh women in politics, and also the 350 Sikh women event. Birmingham Sandwell Council Chambers, supporting the Vaisakhi event at City Hall, and we'll come back to that because you've been actively involved in that. Within the Parliament, we held sort of the launch of the manifesto and also refreshers, but also in the universities. So we've held hustings at the Wolverhampton University, and also the launch of the Sikh
right,
survey. So I guess what's different, I guess for me, it stands out is all of those venues are non-typical Sikh event venues. What's been the benefit of doing that? I mean, what have you had? What's the feedback that you've had from people that have either attended and also?
Well, I think it's a different. Again, I'll come back to the fact that many of these people may have not attended these events had they been held in the gurdwaras. When you take something out of the gurdwara and you present it in a very different manner, sometimes that packaging is more appealing, more attractive. It reaches a wider audience. We've had non-Sikhs attend as well. I remember we did an event in East London, Faith and Politics, with Harinder Singh, when Harinder Singh from the USA was down, and Jagmeet Singh as well, Canadian MPP. Again, that was within the Redbridge Library, a local library to us. We've never had a Sikh event before.
That was packed. I think we had.
It was packed up. Yeah, we had 150 people. We were packed up. We were beyond capacity. And again, if we had that event in the Gurdwara, perhaps we wouldn't have attracted so many people. It helps a lot. But again, we open up to a different audience. We open up to a non-Sikh audience. At these professional events, often you do see non-Sikhs in there as well. And this is the kind of environment in which you'll be able to do that.
I mean, I guess the strongest example of the non-Sikh connection has been with at the June rally that we had last year. We had Mark Thompson from Relatives for Justice.
From Northern Ireland.
Who attended and spoke at the rally because of the similarities between the struggle of the Sikh struggle and the Sikh movement, both the armed struggle, resistance, and also the political struggle, and the prisoners. Very similar to the Northern Ireland struggle. And they certainly saw the similarities, and they came over and they spoke at that event, invited members of the Sikh Network to come and speak at the Field Festival in Belfast, which is an international Belfast, and I was quite lucky enough to go there.
The iconic, was it Cable Street? What's the name of the
Memorial Wall, and I think from that built a relationship that non-Sikhs are now engaging with our struggles. And again, on one of the issues within the manifesto, it's on the issue of the public inquiry for 1984 and the government releasing the truth in the paper. So again, that's something that through various means and reaching out to non-Sikh audience, you actually build that relationship. And that originally stemmed from the relationship we had, a long-standing relationship we had with Amnesty International, and using experts such as Kathleen Kavanagh, who's an expert in the Northern Ireland conflict, who then introduced us. So it isn't just the professionals from a Sikh capacity, it is the non-Sikhs, because of their networks and their contacts can certainly help the cause and move it forward as well. I mean, I guess we'll come on to some of the events that we've focused on and engaging some of those members. Because one, I guess, it's always important to raise awareness and put information out there. But it's also important to attract civil lives, because ultimately it can't always be the same face, and it is about how do you bring new talent on board and how do you sort of build them with you as the network grows and those individuals grow, but also how do you show progress and momentum. I mean, how has the network really moved on, I guess, over the next 2 years in terms of attracting new members and the size of it, and is it still continue to be fresh? Are you still seeing a lot of people reach out to us?
Over the last few months, certainly since the 350 Sikh Women campaign, I believe we've seen a lot more interest and a lot more people coming on board. We're talking about more women coming on board. We've seen, people from, other professional backgrounds having an interest, asking us more questions and wanting to get involved in more of what we do. UK Sikh Survey, again, that was a big hitter. Out there, people started seeing stats, evidence-based stats, which all of a sudden, meant something and had a story to tell, which before what we used to talk about would tend to be very anecdotal, and that accusation of anecdotal evidence completely turned around with more factual based evidence. So there are more and more people coming into the network and growing and wanting to get more involved, and it's really about utilizing that on the points of the manifesto, and now seeing with this resource pool that is coming on board, where we take the points that we raised within the original Sikh manifesto of 2015 and start developing some of these items.
Absolutely, and again, just some of the response that we've had again women and men from professional backgrounds, from either from the events, that have seen the events, or they've followed us on social media. And again, I guess it's an appeal to everybody who out there who's watching or knows people who have an interest is do get in touch. I mean, everything we do is transparent. It's all actively open on social media. So you follow the Sikh network, put it into Google, and you come up with our social media and our Twitter. But what we try to do is follow a structure and implement, I guess, the professional training that we've had in our lives and our professional careers into adopting that into our Sikhi Seva and to really move the Panthak cause forward, because I think that's what connects with people, because it allows, I mean, we all have the struggles with time. Time is something that I don't have any more time than you. We all have the same amount of time in the day. But I guess it comes down to a choice of priorities. And no one knows at what point in time Panthak Seva or any particular issue is going to come on your number one on your priority list. That could be personal circumstance, that could be individual awakening or enlightenment, or it could just be that you're just willing to support at a slower pace. But whatever it is, it's important that once that awakening comes, that you can connect with people and really take advantage of it.
And I think you're right there. I think, there's no denying that there is an activist Sevadar element within all of us, within the Sikh. It's there. I know you've used the term, it's in our DNA. And I don't argue with that. It's in our DNA. And often it's a frustration for many people that they can't get involved in any seva because they don't have the connections, they don't have the network, or they don't see how they can benefit the community as a whole, not just the Sikh community, but the community as a whole. So this is where these kind of platforms are helpful in order to develop and take that forward and allow that activist spirit within all of us, within the Sikh, to come out and move forward.
Absolutely, because this isn't any one individual's responsibility. And I think in the past, the sort of resident organisations have sort of lobbied for many years and decades on Sikh issues and causes and achieved amazing things with their resources. But I think we're now in an environment where everybody has to contribute. And we can't be the generation that be's the suggestion generation. In the social media is very active. We all have those friends and those individuals we know that are just keen keyboard warriors and will just comment on everything and give suggestions, but actually who's going to implement these suggestions? And I think this is the bit where certainly once we've realised and the network's realised is that once you put something out there, actually you need to also back it up with how people can use it, because ultimately the measure of how impactful it will be is how involved individuals get in democracy and in politics and in people movement and revolution. Ultimately where this all comes around from with activism is you can't do it it's not a spectator sport. You can't just watch others do it, you have to participate. And that could be at any level. And
that can be. I mean, a prime example is just the other day we've had a local NHS march for the closure of our A&E unit. And it would have otherwise been a predominantly mainstream event. But there was a Sikh presence there, and I think it was a real eye-opener for many Sikhs, because I think they just felt so at home when we turned up to this event. We joined the march. In solidarity, we stood there. Everyone appreciated everyone, not just the Sikhs, but anyone who attended. And then we did what Singhs and Sikhs do. We did some seva at the end, and we provided water. It's because it's what we do. It comes natural to us, that kind of seva. But it meant a lot, and it was so well appreciated and so well received that you came up with a very uplifted feeling of a sense of pride that you're involved in a movement developed by Guru Nanak Dev Ji to better the world. And it's these kind of things that we forget about sometimes, these small events. I know we need the 84 rallies, there's no denying it. But the kids were actually saying to me, they were involved in the walk yesterday, they felt, this is better than a Nagar Kirtan. Now they saw it in a very different way. They saw that the only time we ever walk together collectively is in a Nagar Kirtan. But this felt more purposeful, this felt more meaningful to them. And it's a shame, but that's how they interpreted it.
And if you think about that concept, and again, it comes back to Sikhs and two points in my view, is that first is actually it's important that we play a role in all global issues. That yes, we have issues that are important to Sikhs. And again, it's when we talk about representation and political representation, we've concentrated on the political side, but actually we need to be relevant in all spaces. Health is important to all of us. And so is education. So when we're in the state of current affairs and the cuts and the austerity, whether Brexit, land, these issues are important to Sikhs as well as non-Sikhs. So I think actually that's another responsibility that we should never shy away from. Because it's not a Sikh event, we don't attend. We should always make the effort, and it was great to see Sikhs out there at the NHS March, and also other campaigns, Brexit campaigns, and whatever campaign individuals feel connected to, then do go out and march. And that comes to the second point is, what is activism? And we mentioned the June rally. Ultimately, that's the biggest sign of people power and people statements. And if you look through history, nothing's been achieved just by sitting at home and moaning about it. You either remonstrate at the ballot box and you make your voice heard, or you hit the streets. I watched a documentary of another powerful woman, Maya Angelou. And again, just lessons through history is you have to hit the streets.
Yeah.
Because unless your movement and your message engages and attracts other individuals, and it's that powerful that you go onto the streets and democratically exercise your voice, then that's what really activism spirit is about. And that's that, again, through all of our history, our gurus have shown it as that Nagar Kirtan, that marching process.
Yeah, it's there.
Whether Jetto da Morcha, whether Nankana, we've always marched against oppression.
Yeah.
And we've held peaceful Nagar Kirtans. We've marched to give court arrest, voluntary arrest. These always have been a concept in Sikhi that Sikhs will march to show their views and their dissatisfaction with any types of issues. So I think we need to be careful that, yes, we're in a social media world, but we don't lose that core, because that is the real...
well, it is, it's got to manifest itself in real action,
yeah.
as you say, and not just remain, like you said, a Facebook statement and move forward. And I think this moves nicely with what, the topic that you do want to talk about, the next topic, which is education, because again, this is a prime example of how you can utilize skill sets in delivering something that's just not going to benefit this generation, but for future generations, looking at institutes that will be there for the next 100 years. And again, that's a form of activism as well.
And I think it's a key point, and as we sort of move on to our next point on today's show is, and before we do that, I guess it's important that, yes, we stay active, we take part and we participate, because as professionals and even those that are in the employment world, or even particularly students, because we had a lot of students get involved, because this is an opportunity to get involved. It's an opportunity to meet like-minded people. It's an opportunity for you to give seva and actually see progress. And whatever contribution you give, and the time you give, or the savand you give, to actually be part of that and moving that forward in a structured manner, to actually see some outcomes and some deliverables. I think that's what everybody is looking for, certainly from who's grown up and educated in this system, is that they're the things, and that's the sort of background structure people are looking for and comfortable working with. So I think bringing that concept forth on Bantak issues has been what's attracted many people going forward. And I think coming on to the second point, again, a key point in the Sikh manifesto was the increasing Sikh ethos schools. Now, we have 12, I understand, in the UK currently that are across the UK, established Sikh schools. And under this current government, it is a government policy to push faith schools and free schools. And I know you've been involved for many years in this. So I guess tell me a little bit more about that issue within the manifesto, about what the Sikh ethos school actually is and what it sort of set out to do.
In 2010, when the coalition government came in, they introduced the scheme, the free school scheme. And ultimately, the free school scheme is an application that you can put in. And if passed, the Department for Education, the DFE, will fully fund the school, both the capital and the operating element of the school. I mean, that's an oversimplistic view of it. I've been through the process. We successfully secured funding for a school, a Sikh faith school within East London, the Artham Academy in the London Borough of Redbridge in East London. So we've been through the whole process. And what I presented earlier, what I said earlier, is a very oversimplistic view of the actual process. It's a much harder and much more, a very complex and time-consuming process as well. It takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of resource. There are two elements that you need to look at. I mean, you've mentioned Sikh ethos schools. You can also get Sikh faith schools. You know, we're a Sikh faith designated school, so you know you're very specific in faith designation. You know, that means that, you know, similar to perhaps a Catholic school or a Church of England school, you classify yourself as a Sikh school.
Right.
Whereas a Sikh ethos school would be perhaps underpinned by the value or the mission statements of the Sikh faith, but perhaps wouldn't be so tied down to operating and running as a Sikh institute or a Sikh school. So you've got to distinguish the two types of schools out there. But nevertheless, we've had the opportunity under the current government and the previous government to develop these institutes. That's 12 institutes. Now, if you want to look at it this way, you talk about 12 schools, 12 institutes. I'm not going to big up the Conservative Party. I'm not going to big up the current government. But we really have to recognise the fact that this is probably the single biggest investment
big policy that
any government has made in any community, in the Sikh community. When you're looking at capital expenditure budgets of schools, you're looking at multi-million pound complexes, you know, 20 million pound plus for the development of a school, 20, 30, wherever you are, 30 million pound plus. When you're looking at the operating budgets of these on an annual basis, you're looking at huge budgets. If you've got an all-through secondary school, you could be in the region of 10 to 15 million on an annual basis, your operating budget for that school. That money has been provided by the Department for Education. So that's a huge investment in the community. So, you know, I just wanted to recognize the fact that we should recognize that this is a big investment within our community and perhaps, you know, something that I don't think the Conservatives even understand themselves,
but I think
the benefit.
We're still, although we've got the 12 schools, and we'll touch on some of those shortly, but I guess we're still underrepresented compared to some of the other, what you may call ethos or faith schools. I mean, again, it's something that for Sikhs, 12 schools might sound a lot, but actually in the grand scheme of things, I think 3,000 schools, of which 86 or Catholic schools of the Christian faith. So there's still a long way for us to go. I think we put in the manifesto something like 20 schools by 2020. So I think it's important just to balance that out in terms of where we are in the bigger picture.
I mean, you know, the unfortunate thing at the moment, what it looks like, is that these 12 schools, which were the 12 schools that we talked about in the manifesto back in 2015, are probably still the same 12 schools that exist out there. So there hasn't been an increase since then. So we do need to start looking at teams, local teams, that expertise, that resource pool that we're talking about, that talent pool out there, investing their time and thinking about opening up schools in other areas. I mean, currently there are schools, we've got Leeds, Wolverhampton, Derby, Coventry, Leicester, Birmingham, Slough, Southall, Hounslow and East London ourselves. You know, perhaps you could say that we've targeted or these are the main Sikh areas, but certainly there are communities within other areas which should benefit from this school. And let's not forget, look, a Sikh ethos school is not just beneficial for Sikh children. Right. You know, these values, and I know from speaking about our school, these values that we project in our school are appealing universal values. Absolutely. These are values that attract people of faith and people of no faith as well. Yeah. You know, currently in the Artham Academy, we have 5 non-Sikhs. One of them is a British-born, a British white child, whose parents have been attracted to the ethos of the school. Next year, our intake, we've recognised, I think at the moment, 10 non-Sikh children. In there, I think we have several non-Indian names as well, so it's not just appealing to people.
And that's important, especially when you're looking at, especially when you said about the significant amount of funding that goes into these schools, that it's important that they are not, I say, completely diverse, but do have that recognition of balance. Because again, it's very early days for many of these schools.
But they're in their infancy. They're very early. Yeah,
absolutely.
You're right. Yeah.
So I think it's important and it's great to see that those kind of numbers in the intake. But again, if the more we raise the awareness of the Sikh values and the principles of the Sikh ethos schools, as opposed to some of the other communities, I think then it becomes more attractive. And I think again, for everything we've done, we've always found that the values that we share as Sikhs, it's always resonated and transcends with many, not only British, but also European people. And because they're humanitarian values, and I think, again, how do we raise those issues? And having been involved not only with the Artham Academy and some consulting with some of the other schools, I guess for anybody out there who is thinking about a Sikh school or Sikh ethos school in their town or their city, either as a Gurdwara or a collection or a group, What would be some of the sort of points that you'd want to raise, some of the sort of lessons learned, if you like, the initial steps that you'd want to share, so those who are thinking about it, what they might want to start to think about to avoid some of the pitfalls?
I mean, you've got to look at various different elements. I mean, when myself and my brother came into it, we probably had very selfish motives at the time, because we were thinking about our children, and we were thinking about the education for our children. So we started investigating and looking into the whole idea of free school schemes, and we were quite late actually coming into it, because some of the schools had already won applications and were in development phase already. But I mean, these are the kind of things you need to know about your local area. I mean, you need to be in touch with your local area. You need to understand your demographics. You need to record demand. So you need to understand the demand for this school. Is there a demand for a Sikh ethos or a Sikh faith school? By understanding your local area, you need to develop a rationale for your school as well. Why is the school needed? Are you in an area of deprivation? Are you going to increase
placements and things like that? I guess specialism comes into that as well.
Well, you could look at that. Are you going to increase education standards? Yeah. What are you going to do that's going to be attractive to your local area? You can't just go with the statement, we want a Sikh school because we have a big Sikh population. The Department for Education not interested in that statement, and it's not going to really support your application. You need to go out there and look at your area, look at the delivery of education, look at the standard of education, and understand it. Like I said, are you in an area of deprivation? If you want to develop a school in an area of deprivation, what strengths would benefit that area? How can you uplift that area? Which is Sikhi in a way. It's all Guru Nanak Dev Ji's revolutionary movement. So you're looking at all those kind of elements. Then you do need to look at a team. You do need to develop a team. You need to develop a good mix in that team. You need educationalists in that team, senior leadership from schools, professionals. Again, comes back to the network. Get a mix of professionals and accountants and people from legal backgrounds, HR backgrounds. It all helps. But project manager, someone who really understands how to manage a project. From start to finish. I mean, it's so key because it's such an intense period of time. Right. People, I think, still don't underestimate what's involved in the whole running of a school. People often ask me when I get phone calls, can you come here and can you come there? And I have to explain to them that I'm busy. I still think they don't understand the concept of the whole amount of time and the whole management of the whole project.
It's a huge commitment. If you think about those full-time people on governors and boards and running schools, and this is something that we all do as voluntary. And it's starting from scratch.
It's starting from scratch. It's all new. And then you're not just governors. You're playing an operational role in this. Yeah. So you're setting. And
you're also doing a community service role, because I'm sure you get phone calls from parents.
Well,
you want a bit over and above that you would normally go to your traditional school.
You're the face of the school. It can get quite overbearing as well, and it's a lot of pressure. Yeah. These are the children of other people's children. And they've put a lot of commitment, a lot of confidence and trust in you. Yeah. So you have to be able to deliver. Now, curriculum is also important as well. So you get your team together, but you do need to start thinking about your curriculum of the school. What is your school going to deliver? What is going to make you different? Are you going to follow a national curriculum? Do you want to be different from national curriculum? How are you going to encompass this Sikh ethos into the fabric of your school? What exactly is Sikh ethos? What exactly is Sikh faith? How do you want to deliver that? And how are you going to make it appealing to the mainstream at the same time as well? People of faith and no faith as well. How will they find your school and have interest in your school? And then, from the team itself, that goes through this whole bid process and this whole application process. You do need to also demonstrate how you would manage your school, the leadership, the governance, and you'll be able to explain, all of that as well. And once you put your application together, I mean, it's a weighty application. You're looking at, this is an application of about 100 plus pages, which has to encompass all of these elements into it. Once you've submitted that, if it's successful, then you're called back for an interview.
I guess, and again, you touched on the political aspect of it, in that the Conservatives have been really key in pushing this as a manifesto pledge, and they've committed to it. But Labour aren't so much. So Labour are very anti the free schools, and we've seen that locally as well. I guess, what kind of challenges do you get when it's at a central government level? It's a national policy, but at a local council level, who you've got to engage with for site, for facilities and support, that might be in opposition, a Labour council, for example. And again, these are the realities and challenges. I guess have you sort of given
Well, I
in
mean,
your area you've got that.
We're fortunate enough not to have experienced that, but I do know that has happened in other parts and other Sikh schools in other parts of the UK. And certainly, I feel we're in a good position where I think from our understand from the signals we've received and from our communication with the council and local political arena, I think everyone is supportive of the school because it alleviates the shortage of school places in our area. We've got a growing we've got a growing pupil population. Sorry, not Sikh population. It's an attractive borough in London. Inward migration. Schools are running out of places, and the government isn't providing funding to local authorities for schools now. So all schools are going to be built from the free school scheme anyway. So just to go touch back on it, there is a certain amount of challenge because on one side you've got the Department for Education, central government has approved the application. You have to then go out there, you've got to source sites, you've got to find the sites, you've got to go through all of that, all the issues that revolved around that. And then you've got to go through planning, a normal planning application through your local council. So it's subject to all the conditions and all the issues that you will have locally, whether it's residential, other institutes around you, your statutory consultees. Everyone will put forward what they believe are concerns and issues.
Have you benefited, and is there, I guess, there's a lot of knowledge and experience out there. And I know we've sort of met and discussed with the likes of people like Nick Condola, etc. But is there, again, given we've got schools that have been open a lot longer, I know that the Castle Science Academy in Leeds has been open. They've now got its permanent site, and I know KTV was there, and I was also there at the unveiling of the World War I monument. Is there that, I guess, support structure, a network of those individuals that are working in schools for you to sort of collaborate with and share and get advice from? Is that existing? Is that something that, or from a Sikh network point of view, we're trying to really...
Well, I mean, there isn't a national network of Sikh schools, and there should be. And that's something that's in serious need of development. I mean, ourselves, we took the approach of becoming a multi-academy trust, MAT as they call it. And that was by getting in touch with people out there that already set up schools and seeing that if we could just basically join that whole movement, if you want to call it, or that infrastructure, and take advantage of economies of scale, expertise and sharing of resource. And certainly when we approached Nick Condola and his team, who at that point in time had just set up the Khalsa Secondary Academy in Stoke Poges, it was an appealing and attractive idea for us to get together and utilize our resources, our expertise and our skill set in opening up Artham Academy and what is now the British Sikh School in Wolverhampton as well. So there is a big advantage of us coming together under a multi-academy trust platform and utilizing our skill sets together. And like I said, economies of scale, taking advantage of purchasing power, taking advantage of a collective approach, and also standardizing our curriculums across the board, because what we don't want is to have a Sikh curriculum which is different from one school to the other, and have that kind of commonality, really.
Absolutely, then it starts to distinguish between two. I mean, it's a very topical issue, I guess, and given that Faith School and it's in the London Borough of Redbridge, have you seen much sort of change in either the community response or political response with post-Brexit environment? I guess, given that microscope of that lens has been placed upon immigrants and conversations around integration, non-integration, and specific community schools. I mean, what have you heard around that sort of discussion? I
mean, I must confess there haven't been big challenges in that respect anyway. I mean, we've had comments, and we've had, in our consultations, we've had to have several consultations as part of the DFE process. You do get people writing back and asking, what is the need for a faith school? Why can't we all just have secular schools? You're isolating the community and those kind of challenges that exist out there. But I mean, I come back to that, is that we're adding choice to parents We're in a borough in London which at this point in time has actually every single faith school now. We have a Jewish school, we've got a Muslim school, we've got several Christian denomination schools, we've got a Hindu school, and now that we have a Sikh school, I think we might be the only borough in the whole United Kingdom which is so diverse and so representative. So it made sense to have a Sikh school anyway. The funniest comment, I must confess, that we got was a local resident visited one of our open events, and we were talking. A parent asked how we'd teach Punjabi, and the whole point of us teaching Punjabi was in a school environment as a modern foreign language, to give it that kind of MFL appeal, that it's taught in the same way as Spanish would be or French would be, and not the Gurdwara model, which is a model which we found the next generation isn't really benefiting from, because Punjabi is not spoken at home, and that's the honest truth. So we know that our children are, and perhaps we're not speaking as much Punjabi with our children. And it's a natural progression. It's a natural, not progression. It's a natural thing as a generation embeds itself in a country. We are going to lose Punjabi, and it's a threat. So we have to think of ways of doing that. And the lady came back and she goes, "But why do you want to teach Punjabi in school? Surely you're all speaking that at home." And it's those kind of naive comments. Why would a Sikh child want to learn Punjabi when that's what you probably all speak at home anyway? But it's just the stigmas and it's just kind of not stigmas but misinterpretations and misunderstandings and not really knowing the community that well. But besides that, in all honesty, no, there hasn't been. We've had support from all the community. And
I think this is something again which comes back to the wider issues within the manifesto, is that for many years we've been an insular community in that we've got on with things, worked hard, Mankamal, given to charity, shared out fund, and concentrating on building institutes, but haven't really openly engaged with the wider public around the real values of Sikhi. And whatever we've done, when we've done interfaith events and we've had different faith speakers speak at the Guru Nanak Gurpurab, they have nothing but complimentary things to say, and they are sometimes moved by those common principles of Guru Nanak in terms of Sarbat da Pala, in those common values that we hold dear and are foundations of Sikhi, that once people see those and we share those out, that it actually is very attractive to many others. And I think talking about the concept of faith schools and schools moving forward, I think it's not only on the education piece, but on the wider things. It's about how do we share those common values and explain those with not only people from other ethnic backgrounds, but also wider UK public.
Yeah, I mean, you have a school, if you have a school that's underpinned with good values, and that's driven through the whole school, then you make the delivery of education very powerful.
Absolutely.
And that's what's attractive about faith schools and specifically Sikh ethos schools as well. And I do feel that the DFE do look at Sikh faith schools in a favourable manner. They do like the model. They do like the idea of it. The fact that we've been able to have 12 schools, 7 years ago, we were talking about 2 schools existing in 7 years. We've progressed 10. So there is an attraction, and there is something that we are able to sell out there, and will benefit the community as a whole.
And I think there's, as a Sikh community, and that's some of the vital lessons that we have to share. And again, comes back to the objective of everybody who not only is part of the network, because I've always said that everybody who's part of the network, you're all part of the Sikh network, because you all have that passion, that connection, and also that responsibility. And I think we've talked about how you can get involved from professional backgrounds, how we've heard about Sikh schools and how they add value to not only Sikhs but also the wider public in UK. And I think anyone out there is thinking of joining the network, then do the usuals, go on Google, check our socials, get in touch, reach out, and we'll certainly get back to you and get you involved. And if there's anybody that is looking to do a faith school or Sikh school, then certainly reach out to the Sikh network, and we'll certainly put you in touch with any of the 12 schools that we've mentioned on the show, and whether it's Mankamal or others, Sukraj Singh in Leeds or Harnaik Singh in the academy, we can connect you with these guys to learn those key steps. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Keep watching the Sikh Network show. Keep watching KTV. Itte Fateh Balao. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa. Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.